what's up?
Pad Thai is on my short list for best noodle dishes of all time, but when it comes to making it well at home, if I'm being honest, I've really struggled to get it right. Either the noodles are undercooked or they're overcooked, and for some reason my sauce is always way too sour. So I've buckled down and did some additional testing and research, and now I've got a process and recipe that will show you how to make foolproof, semi-authentic Pad Thai at home. To get started, I'll grab 120 grams of Thai rice noodles and soak them in enough room temperature water to cover for 1 hour. I got these noodles at the International Grocery Store by my house, and specifically they're the medium size. The rice noodles that are available to me at the regular American supermarket are pretty not good for Pad Thai, despite there being a Pad Thai recipe on the box. But that being said, those noodles can work in a pinch. Just boil them for 4 minutes and then pop them into the wok right away while still very hot. If you cool these boiled noodles down at all, they'll set up into a sticky, unusable, gummy mess. These results are fine overall, but if you can find the Thai style medium rice noodles, I highly recommend you go with those because the results are much better. I'll link to something close to these noodles in the description box below. After 1 hour, I'll drain these noodles through a strainer and then give them a cut with scissors to make them a more manageable size. Without trimming, these noodles are like 2 feet long, and that makes for a tangled nest in the wok. After soaking, they should be malleable and bendy, but not sticky at all. And if you're wondering, hey Bri, can I use boiling water to speed up this entire soaking process? Well, same deal as with the supermarket rice noodles. Cooking these gelatinizes the starch, and that makes them super sticky, and in my experience leads to a pretty horrific Pad Thai. Now, since this is a stir fry, we need 100% of our prep sorted out before we start cooking. Of course, I've got my soaked Thai rice noodles here. Again, these are medium size. Next to those, I've got a ½ pound or 225 grams of shrimps. These were large 8 to 12 count shrimp, which is too big in my opinion, so I cut them all in half. That's gonna give me 8 shrimps per portion. This recipe makes 2 portions. Next, I've got 75 grams of rough chopped shallots. Red onion would also work here, and I cut these shallots into big chunks so that they don't get too caramelized and burn in the hot wok. To pair with my shallots, I've got 15 grams or about 3 to 4 cloves of garlic that I've minced. Then I've got 50 grams of chopped unsalted toasted peanuts that I've sifted. To get them ready for the Pad Thai, I just chopped them down into smaller pieces. Then I grabbed a fine mesh strainer and sifted out all of the peanut dust. This allows for a better overall texture because peanut dust can thicken the sauce and make things pasty. Now, another thing that I picked up at the International Grocery Store was sweet radish. I've got 25 grams of that chopped here, and this is a classic Pad Thai ingredient that's basically daikon radishes that have been cured with salt and sugar. Oh, and they kind of look like Big League Chew gum. They taste kind of farty and funky, but trust me, they're delicious. And they're not a deal breaker if you can't find them. You can just go without. Next, I've got 50 grams of scallions, tops only, then 100 grams of fresh bean sprouts. These bring that signature fresh, wet crunchiness that I love about Pad Thai, and I really can't recommend skipping them. Then I've got 125 grams or 4 ounces of medium diced extra firm tofu. Extra firm tofu is also known as pressed tofu, and it is significantly drier and more firm than firm tofu. When I put them next to each other, you can see how totally different they actually are. Firm tofu is still soft like jello and will just fall apart when tossed aggressively in a hot wok. Extra firm tofu is pressed with a weight to remove excessive moisture, and the result is chewy and dense. It's by far my favorite way to eat tofu. Next, let's talk about Pad Thai sauce. For me, it should be a perfect balance of salty, sweet, and sour, and should only be 3 ingredients. The first of which is 40 grams of tamarind. My International Grocery Store has 3 options for tamarind: tamarind concentrate, tamarind pods, and Indian tamarind paste. I'm using the tamarind concentrate here because out of the 3, it's the least sour and probably what most Thai takeout places are using for their Pad Thai. Next, you've got tamarind pods, which have amazing flavor but have seeds mixed in, and that requires some additional prep, and they're pretty sour, so I don't use them. And then lastly, I have access to Indian tamarind paste, and this is a great ingredient overall, but mega sour, and this is the main reason that most of my early Pad Thais were way too tart. If all you have access to is this inky, thick tamarind paste, it is usable, just have the amount that you're using and up the sugar by 15 grams. Speaking of sugar, next I'll add in 60 grams of chopped palm sugar. Just throw that onto the old International Grocery Store shopping list when you're buying your salted radishes and Thai medium rice noodles. And if you haven't worked with Thai palm sugar before, it has a nice caramely flavor and gives this Pad Thai its authentic flavor. Plus, it comes in pucks that are about 60 grams each, so you'll only need 1 for 2 portions. If you can't find palm sugar, just sub in 75 grams of brown sugar instead. Lastly, I'll add in 40 grams of fish sauce and then stir this sauce to combine. Don't worry about getting getting that sugar 100% dissolved because that'll happen pretty much instantly once this sauce hits the wok. Now the last little 3 details here that I need to mention for prep are chili flakes for some heat, a lime to bring some fresh acidity at the end, and then 2 eggs that I've got pre-cracked and ready to party. Now I'm gonna grab my 12-inch wok and drop it over high heat so that we can get down to cooking this thing. But first, let me thank the sponsor of this video, Babbel, one of the top language learning apps in the world. For me, there's no better way to get excited about making new creative recipes for you guys than traveling and exploring new food cultures. When I travel, I always try to pick up a few of the words and phrases from the country that I'm going to. And in the past, I've used Babbel to learn some French and Italian, but next on my list is Spanish. I learned a little in high school, but definitely not enough to get by in Spain, so I'm gonna use Babbel to brush up. Babbel is scientifically proven to help you start speaking a language in as little as 3 weeks, and lessons are taught by actual language teachers using real-world conversations about things that you might use when traveling, like food or business or travel stuff.
Tenemos que convocar una reunión.
Tenemos que convocar una reunión. So if you're curious about learning a new language, click the link in my description or scan this QR code to get 60% off your Babbel subscription. Let me know in the comments where you guys want to travel to and what language you'd like to learn. Gracias, Babbel. I'll mention that if you guys don't have a large seasoned wok like I do, no big deal. You can still use a large nonstick pan here, but you'll need to lower the heat from high to medium high and try and keep that thing in the 450F range. Now, once my wok is ripping hot, I'm going to add in a good long squeezer of high smoke point oil. Then in goes my half pound of shrimp, a strong pinch of salt, and then I'll jump in and stir to get things frying. These shrimp are going to take about 2 minutes in total to get them where we want them to be, and I like to keep them moving most of that time so they don't get too much heat in one place. That can make things rubbery. And once these shrimps are looking well seared and about 85% of the way cooked through, I'm gonna scoot them over to a bowl to hang out and carry over cook until I'm ready for them in about 5 to 6 minutes. Now the pan goes back over high heat, and once it's ripping again, I'll add in another squeezer to lube up the pan, and then in goes 2 eggs. As soon as the whites are set up on the bottom here, I'll come back with my spoon and break open the yolks and start to scramble them in the wok. Most pad thai recipes scramble the eggs along with the noodles and everything else in the pan, and I found that challenging to get right. Cooking these eggs by themselves allows me to get them cooked properly, and I don't have to worry about overcooking my noodles or breaking down the eggs. Now, once these are mostly cooked through, I'm gonna scoot them over to the shrimp bowl to chill, and then I'll cook everything else. One last time, I'm gonna drop this wok over high heat, in goes some oil, and then from there, I'll add in my extra firm tofu and stir fry it for about 2 minutes or so. It turns out that tofu doesn't have a ton of flavor, but when you fry it in oil and get it all nice and golden brown, it tastes very good. So once it's nice and golden brown on all 4 sides like this, I'll call it done. Next, in goes my shallots, my garlic, my preserved radishes, and then my chili flakes. More stirring to get those things combined, and then I'll fry everything together for about 30 seconds to open up their flavor. Be careful when cooking the garlic here, you guys, and keep things moving constantly because that can get burnt pretty fast and could easily ruin the entire dish. And once I'm smelling that toasty garlic and the shallots are softened slightly, I'll add in my soaked noodles and then my sauce. From there, I'll give everything a couple stirs and a few tosses so that the noodles can finish cooking. Texturally, we want these things to be springy and a touch chewy, but of course we want them to be soft and tender at the same time. Sometimes the sauce itself is enough liquid to soften them, but most of the time I need to add in a few splashes of additional water to get them into that sweet spot. So in goes an additional 1/4 cup or so of water, and then I'll give it a few more tosses to see how it looks. And this is really where the finesse of this dish comes into play. Too much water and things are soggy and gluey, and too little, the noodles are raw. Check it out, see how the sauce is reduced here and the noodles are shiny and soft but still hold their shape. That's what we're looking for. Next, over medium heat now, I'm gonna add in my shrimp and eggs. I'll give that a few tosses to get things combined, and careful not to overwork things from this point because the noodles will start to rip apart. Then in goes my bean sprouts, my green onion, and then half of my peanuts. And then finally, one last stir and fold here to get the sprouts and scallions wilted in, and I'll cook this for about 30 more seconds. And there we go, saucy, perfectly cooked noodles holding shrimp and stuff. To finish this, I'm gonna move it over to a plate and then top with a few pinches of my reserved chopped peanuts and then a long squeezer of lime to bring some bright, light acidity. You guys, it took me a long time to figure out how to make great pad thai at home. The noodles are deceptively tricky to get right, but once you do, you're rewarded with one of life's great ways to eat noodles. It's savory, salty, sweet, sour, shrimpy, nutty, and funky. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think. I really hope you try this recipe soon. Let's eat this thing.